Admiral Ross never wants to play poker with Colonel Kira. Esri Dax hates Raktajino. And Dr. Wyckoff, please come to Isolation Ward 4 immediately. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. We are joined by a very, very special guest, Nicole de Boer, who plays, of course, Esri Dax today. We're doing a review of Deep Space Nine Season 7, Episode 2, Shadows and Symbols, which is the big Esri Dax coming out party. It's written by Ira Steven Behr and Hans Beimler, directed by Alan Craker. This is October 7th, 1998. Where were you? How you guys doing?
I'm doing very, very well. Welcome, Nikki.
We can't hear you, Nikki. Sorry.
Hello, hello.
There she is.
Season 7, so exciting.
Yeah, we made it. We finally made it to Esri Dax, and we got a little glimpse of you in the first episode. Right at the last second, they gave us the teaser to kind of pull us into this episode.
Right, just at that very end there.
Just at the very end, like, here, get him some more, and it was great because it was unexpected.
Yeah.
It was unexpected.
Yeah, you know
what
what
do you remember
Cirroc
about
and I
that first moment?
Hang on.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, remember Cirroc, last week when we reviewed that episode and we saw you, Nikki, just show up in the last 5 seconds, we were both hit by like, wow, she just like blew up the scenery right there with just like 2 lines. Like I remembered that you came in then, but I never noticed like it was just perfect. Like you were like glowing and you had all your face was saying so many things in just like 2 lines.
Yeah.
We were really blown away by that. And if you don't believe me, check the tape. We did say it. But anyway, it was great. Great
Thanks,
to see.
Guys. I remember that moment. And continuing on into this episode, I had a lot of, I'm glad it was coming off me. I had a lot of nerves. I had a lot of excitement.
That's kind of what you feel when you're looking at you at that moment. There's so much expression in your face. And like Ryan said, you're glowing right from the beginning. And there's this feeling of familiarity, like just wholesomeness. And, we want to get to know what your story is. And I think it's just a great introduction for you to be right at the tail end of the last episode. And then a huge part of this episode, which I enjoyed a lot. Just seeing you kind of really dealing with all the emotions of being in this body, or inhabiting this body. What was the preparation like for you taking on this role?
It was just, I didn't get a whole lot. I got that, but everything from the moment I read the audition, as I've said before on, I just knew this was my role. It just felt right for me, so everything felt really good about it. And I moved to LA very quickly, and I went and got my wardrobe and all of that. And it was all very exciting. And they gave me a few episodes to watch. And I was living at the Magic Hotel at the time. I didn't even have an apartment yet.
Wow.
And but it was so exciting. And that
do you remember? Oh, sorry. Do you remember?
I remembered learning my lines and just loving them, just loving my lines, loving everything. I could already see the scene and coming in and seeing you guys. And I was so excited to get there. And I'd already watched I just loved the relationship between Benjamin and Jake, in the episodes that they gave me to watch. I just thought it was beautiful. And by that time, your characters have grown so much, and that relationship is such a strong, pivotal part of the series. And I felt that from the stuff that I'd watched beforehand. So knowing that I was coming into this scene on Earth too, which I kind of really liked that it was on Earth and with you 3 gentlemen. Gave it also that wholesomeness to have the generations of you 3 guys there, and that Sisko was going to welcome me and see Dax right away, even though I'm in this petite package, this little elfin package now, but he still sees me and welcomes me. So when I read that, I just got tingles, and I was just like, and so when I got to the set and saw you guys there, it was just perfect. It looked just perfect. And I couldn't wait to get in there and play. And then, Avery Brooks, he just gives me that smile and that welcome, and it just all felt so great. I remember that in the moment. And Brock Peters too. I was like, oh my God.
That may have been Brock Peters' last episode. I haven't checked, but I think it might have been his last one. Do you remember what the episodes were, the Deep Space Nine episodes were that they gave you to watch to prep you?
The finale from before, Emissary, and I can't remember. I can't remember the names right now, but they only gave me a few.
So beginning.
Now you were auditioning from Toronto, or were you in Canada at the time when you were auditioning, or were you in?
Just the very first initial, audition was like a self tape that I sent in from Canada when I was filming in Newfoundland, and then they flew me down for the test.
Oh wow! Was there any kind of notes about the Jadzia Dax and what they wanted for you to keep or change, or was it just like
the main note? Yeah, the main note was, don't worry about that. We just want you to think about her as a new character. So that's kind of what they said, which was really helpful. I think, it didn't make me stress out so much about it.
Right.
But then I did see, I couldn't sit down and watch 6 seasons, at that point. It was literally, I came in, I got the part, and I was filming, within a week or so. And as I say, I didn't have a place to live or anything at that point. So I couldn't have watched all of it at that point. So they were just like, don't worry. Like, it's going to be fine. It'll be in the writing. It'll all be there. You're a new character. And I was like, okay. So it was a lot of trusting them on that. And I did. I just did trust them, And then as I went along, like later in Image in the Sand, there was a moment for sure where I was like, where with Garrick, and then Nana comes in, and I realized, oh, this is the spot where Jadzia died. Then in that moment, I was like, oh shit, people might not like me at all. Like, because I just really felt it in that moment. Like, I've replaced someone, a loved character,
Yeah, but the beauty of that character is that the character begins with as a replacement herself, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Being Curzon, formerly Curzon or whatever. So
she's there in me, and then she's a link. She's a link for everybody mourning her. It's lovely because then I can be this link to her for them too.
And I think that's one of the beautiful things that's expressed in this opening appearance of your character is the realization that the people who are suffering from the loss of Jadzia, that they actually get a piece of her back.
Yeah.
So where you see that people might hate you, I think that people love you because it's like, oh, I get a little bit of her back. I get some essence of her back. I get the memories and the story and the history back, even though it's encapsulated in a whole new person with a whole new perspective. So I think it's a beautiful thing that you're kind of coming back, and you showed the right level of nervousness when I watch your performance as coming back. You start talking a lot. You're like, oh my God, I got. And I like that performance because it's like, it feels natural that you're just like, just probably overwhelmed with all of this emotion and knowledge about past lives and stuff.
And I knew that I was never going to be able to be Jadzia, nor did the writers that they want me to be Jadzia. So I was like, this is what I'm going to be. I'm going to be something very different, but light. And I definitely wanted to bring a light in with me.
Seems like they did a good job, the writers, of making it very clear immediately to the audience that this was going to be a different character.
Yeah.
And you obviously portrayed that beautifully, but I think they wanted to make it very clear right away, because otherwise the writing, the acting, everything goes under the scrutiny of, wait a minute, this isn't the same character. But if they establish that right away, this is a totally different character. She has the memories, she has the ties, but this is a different person. This person has the personality of Ezri Dax. So I think it's really cool when you say that they told you right away, don't worry, this is a different character. And I thought it was really good that they established that right away. Did they give you any other kind of hints other than the writing as to what your character would be like? Or did they just say, you know what, we like the way you read in the audition, just keep doing that?
Yeah, pretty much that. Just keep doing that. It's not like they tell you what's coming down the line or anything either, you know. You get the script and you find out. But it was, pretty much like, you got the part for a reason. Just keep doing what you did at the audition, you know, like keep bringing that to the table, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of the writing, I thought they did a good job in this episode. A personal kind of connection with Sisko, but also like there were lines that you were able to cross because of your past history with him. Like when you're like, I'm gonna go with you guys, that was right off the top. It's like, okay, you're gonna come. Like, not too many people will be able to force their way into Sisko's schedule, right?
And that Sisko would be happy about it.
right. Yeah. So that right off top, you're like, I'm coming. And I love the line you gave, to which I thought you delivered excellently, where you're like, aren't you guys glad you brought me along? Because everything was going to shit. And you were like, hey, aren't you happy that you brought me? It was like, so I love that delivery. But also, and there was another one. Did you get taller, or did I just get shorter? Another one?
Yes, beautiful.
You get taller? I get smaller.
Yes, it was just beautiful, especially for the history of the character.
It was so fun. The writing was so great. Like I say, when I read it beforehand, I was like, oh my God, I see it. I can't wait. And then when I got there with you guys, I mean, it just was like magic, you know?
Yeah. And then like what I was saying was also like, so because Sisko is kind of losing his mind in this episode, right? You're playing the person who like tries to like bring him back into reality and like right the ship or be some kind of lighthouse for him so that he can find his way.
Yeah. Because I'm the old man and I'm there in his time of, he's kind of losing his mind here, you know? And so I show up. But that's like, thank goodness that, you know, Avery would allow me that. And Avery's such a great actor. Look at this tiny little girl, you know, and be like, you know, I feel better in her presence. Because that's pretty funny.
Right. Your character kind of needed that endorsement. That's introducing this new character. If you are going 100%. To be a character that is beloved and that is going to be a main or a lead, you know, unless you're a villain, if you need to be part of the main crew, then they need to know this, and that kind of, you know, endorsement or acknowledgement from the lead, basically tells us, she's with us. Don't worry about it. She's with us. It's all good.
And for me as an actor coming in, knowing that I was coming in the 7th season and going to, you know, work with all these characters and stuff, that helped me immensely for my first scene to be with him and getting that endorsement, you know, it really, really made a difference for me. And
I know you touched on it a little bit earlier, but I thought it was so cool. And again, I've seen this before, but rewatching it, you catch so many new things. I just thought it was so cool, as you mentioned, that your opening scenes, your opening episode, your opening plot was all about the Siskos, the Sisko and the Siskos. So you got to spend some special time just with Cirroc. You got to spend some special time just with Avery and Brock, you know, and it was just such a great way to introduce you to the story and us to the character. And then it's like you get an introduction to the show and the Siskos. And then at the end of this episode, you get a second introduction to Deep Space Nine itself. Did you feel like they were kind of bringing you in bit by bit that way?
I mean, I don't know. I guess if that was the intention or just the way the story, but it worked so well for me as an actor coming in. And then I love that very last moment when I come to the station and I turn around and I look back at everybody like,
Worf, we need to talk.
Killed.
That killed me. I actually laughed
Oh,
out loud. They're like, oh, hi. Worf, we need to talk. That was brilliant.
That's so funny. It was so fun to play with that too, and have, and then I was really there because I was a fan. I did watch Next Generation. I was like there with Michael Dorn, as Worf, and just saying that line to him. I was just like, oh, this is going to be so fun.
Yeah, I thought this episode was super packed with a lot of stuff, and it's amazing to me that they were able to have. I felt like there were three kind of major storylines in this episode. There was the, it was your character's introduction with the Sisko orb search, which I love that whole. I really love the outfits too. I don't know.
The outfits were so cool.
Cirroc loves treasure hunt episodes. Those are his favorite. So he's like all about it.
No, I drew my little. This is my little sketch of the.
Oh wow!
The stuff that they were wearing with the backpack.
That's so cool.
But I love the outfits, and it reminded me because like now on the new Star Trek, every episode they have the coolest outfits. They have an away mission outfit. They have just a relaxing outfit. They have like more outfits than
so many outfits.
Yeah, right? Whereas old school Star Trek,
cool.
You guys would sleep in your Starfleet uniforms. Every time there's a there's Starfleet uniforms.
Right. Now there's an outfit for everything. There's a Starfleet logo, the communicator, but it's a jogging suit. It's a workout thing. It's a basketball outfit. So now it's multiple things. But just seeing that made me remind me that, we had our own little cool little, sand, Lawrence of Arabia
outfits.
So I really love that kind of introduction. I thought it was clever that they were able to weave in all of these major storylines with the introduction of your character, which is a lot to do just to that in itself, but also resolving this prophet experience with Sisko and his, wrestling with himself and being this emissary character. Them closing the Dax thing at the same time they're bringing you in. I thought that is also clever.
Very clever.
Because on one side, when they cut, it's about closure for Dax. I mean, for Jadzia. For Jadzia and the closure there.
Yeah.
And they don't even know that you exist, which is another kind of great thing. Because here you are on the other side, you pop back up again. And it's like, that might have even changed their whole narrative on this side had they known that you were there. But I love that they had these dueling storylines going on. I thought made it even better for highlighting how special your presence was.
Totally. I agree.
Yeah, I was thinking about the kind of the same thing. That almost seemed like the crux of the episode there was. Right. And again, this was something I didn't catch the first time. I just kind of watched it like a dummy and just was like, wow, this is so cool. But now I look at it more deeply, and it was really interesting that Worf gets his closure and all the other friends get their closure. But specifically, especially Worf gets his closure. And he's like, finally, my wife can rest, because he thinks she's in this middle zone where she's not really. Finally, my wife can rest. And then he turns around and it's almost like a resurrection. It's like, it was almost as if the timing were waiting for him to have his closure before he was ready for, this new, situation to come up.
Yeah. Thank goodness she was in Stovacor by then.
Yeah. Because if she showed up before that, he'd be like, hang on, this is getting really confusing. You go back outside. Let me do this other thing first.
Yeah.
Did they walk you through the whole Dax makeup experience beforehand and say this is what to expect, or was that something that just hit you by surprise?
I can't remember. I don't think so. I think it was all just like throw on this outfit, show up on this day.
Wardrobe fitting,
No,
go here, go there.
It was pretty crazy. It was pretty crazy. But
Was it Michael Westmore doing the
yeah.
doing your
Yeah, I had just my pretty makeup done first by, oh gosh, why can't I think of her name? What was her name?
Kim?
Karen?
Was it Karen?
Oh my God, Mary Kay. Mary Kay.
Mary Kay. Okay.
I just remember she would always talk like this. And she was so cute. So cute. And then she would do my pretty makeup, just my regular makeup. And then Michael Westmore would come in and with his like Starbucks and come in and do my spots, which was just so relaxing. It's just like these little brushes just tickling your face. And he would just do those every morning. So we did like 99 of them by the end. Didn't take that long at all. By that time, he'd been doing it for years. He could do it with his eyes closed at that. He didn't even there. And people would ask, was there a, what do you call it? No, he did it by hand. Did it by hand every day. I think he just enjoyed doing that. And he would come in and just chat about where.
I enjoy doing it too with a gorgeous Nicole de Boer.
I really treasured them.
That's really hard,
It was lovely. I felt, yeah, I did feel pretty spoiled in those were lovely moments. And then I'd be like, oh, Michael, go on. Oh, was it a nice restaurant? And I'd look over and there would be Armin just like, all getting his makeup done. He's on hour 4 or whatever.
Wow. It does seem like it would be almost a little therapeutic for him, though, because of the way the design was of the makeup. It was almost like putting a puzzle together. It's like a relaxing thing where with him, he's just doing each individual little design. He probably has it completely memorized in his head by then.
At some point, I bet it's identical.
Yeah,
I bet you it's identical at some point. It's just he starts with the same set of patterns.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he does.
Mm. Yeah, that's amazing.
That's good.
Did he ever hold up like a sheet of paper that showed exactly what the design was supposed to be, or was it just always by memory?
No, just by hand every day. Just, it was always a little different. And then he would number it right down here. It was just like an orange and greeny brown, just kind of 2 colors really. And that I could tell. Yeah, I think so. And then he would number it with Roman numerals down here. And now on Halloween, he drew a little pumpkin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know.
Have to look close for that one.
A pumpkin. All right, we will look for that.
Because it was orange paint and it was Halloween, so pumpkin.
That's a real Easter egg right there.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot.
I have no idea what episode that would have been in, but I had a pumpkin.
We'll check though. We're gonna be watching, and it was on your right side.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll check for that. We got a lot more to talk about. We do have to go to a very quick break, everybody at home. And I specifically want to know the interactions between the two of you. Personally, I want to, because this was what you shot first, I'm assuming. And I also assume that it might have been pretty hot where you guys were, because it must have been August, but we'll talk about all that good stuff. Everybody stick around. We'll be right back on The 7th Rule. Well, hi there, everybody. Welcome back to The 7th Rule with Cirroc, Lofton, and Nicole de Boer.
Hi.
We are doing a review of Deep Space Nine, Season 7, Episode 2, of course, Shadows and Symbols. Let's do the trivioids very quickly. These are the trivia pieces that may or may not have made the cutting room floor at the opening segment. Quark volunteers for a Klingon mission. Ezri gets space sick. Sisko is a lot happier ever since Ezri showed up. Ezri Dax hates Raktajino. Quark wants Worf to thank him. Damar and Siana met at the dinner honoring Legate Hovat. Dr. Wyckoff, please come to Isolation Ward 4 immediately. 14 Romulan warbirds are on their way to Derna, and Admiral Ross never wants to play poker with Colonel Kira. Those were the trivioids of the week, if I said them correctly. So, okay. This was episode 2. So you guys obviously shot this in August, right? Since October
July.
7th, either July even, you think?
It was July when we started. It might have been the very end of July, so the beginning of August.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was the desert, right? So how hot was that? I kept trying to watch to see. You guys were relatively dry considering. I thought you guys would just be drenched.
It was hot. I mean, I'd never been, I mean, it was really cool. It was really cool to go and do this desert, planet stuff. Really cool. But man, was it hot. Oh my God. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Crazy.
Yes, I do. I hated all the desert stuff. It looks great on film.
Listen, I was so glad to get back to that studio, and ever since then, I love to work in a controlled climate environment. I like to be in a studio. I am not good with weather, heat. I'm overheating. If it's cold, back when I had my contact lenses, then my eyes would water. I said have watery eyes. I mean, so I did not enjoy being out in that desert. Thankfully, I had it stand-in. I met my stand-in on that episode, Jennifer. She was amazing because they would send her out there to stand in the heat for most of the time. God. And we were all doing that, like taking like handkerchiefs and putting them in freezer. What was it they would put it in? Like a bucket of some kind of cooling gel. And then you tie it around your neck. It was so hot. Oh my God.
Yeah. You actually really look unfazed by the weather on film.
Yeah.
So I couldn't tell. I was looking for uncomfort, even on my own. But I wrote as one of my notes, I was like, Joseph Sisko's too old for this. Like,
yeah, I know. What the hell?
Scary.
That's true. No, I remember us all saying that. This is not good. We're concerned for Brock.
Yeah.
This is not good for Mr. Peters.
Yeah.
That was not good.
It
was scary.
Brock can't walk up these mountain desert dunes and
I remember that.
He's too old. This is elder abuse. He shouldn't be doing this.
He's paid his dues already, man.
I'm like, just tell him about it when you get back. Let him sit under the shade of a tree.
Exactly. No, and I remember people saying that, like, don't put him out there unless he's got to be out there. Like, just wait till the last second. Yeah, that was. I got
thirsty thinking about it. I had to take a sip of water. It was so hot. Watching him. You saw him really struggling to get up there, and I remember, he was leaning on me, using me as a support because it's not easy for him at his age to be doing that heavy hiking.
Yeah, in the sand.
And I was thinking, well, this is not the best. And then I was thinking, why don't they just beam closer to where they need to be at? Like all this walking, I said, I'd be beaming everywhere, guys. They'd be like, where do you got to go?
Good point.
Down to the corner store. Well, just beam me over there. I don't feel like walking.
That's right. You're right. Why are we walking so much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I mean, Sisko's crazy. So why are we following the crazy guy?
That was a great line too, by the way. You're like, have you always been there? You seem like you're getting stranger. That actually made me laugh out loud because the audience knows, we all know that he's just tripping out on some kind of little thing or, oh boy, here he goes again. But your character is just like, I remember him being so calm and collected. Like, what's going on here?
Yes.
Totally.
It does.
No, I like that. I didn't expect to see my character kind of bounce off of him when he touched him. I forgot that whole thing. And I'm pretty sure I forgot because I wasn't there for that stunt. I'm pretty sure Todd, my stand-in, was doing that stunt. Because I don't remember getting flown back 20 yards,
Yeah, no, that wasn't you.
That wasn't me. That was not me. But I did.
Oh my God, I remember now. You were not digging it. I remember you not digging it out there.
No, I hate dirt. I hate dirt.
Dirt.
I just don't like dirt and bugs. So I'm not the best for stuff, dirt and bugs. I'm like a sterile environment too with dirt and
me too. But you know what? It looked really cool, and our outfits were.
It looks good. It looks good, and it adds. It's like the time that I liked the outdoor was the baseball game day.
Oh yeah.
When we filmed Take Me Out to the House, because then we were playing baseball, so I was wearing a baseball uniform. We're at a baseball field, so then you can just, like, when they say cut, you're still throwing the ball around. Everybody's playing. But when you're in the desert, it's like there's nothing to do except for grab a water and try to
There
stand
was
in the
nothing
shade.
there. We were just on that sand hill. That
Yeah.
was it. But it was cool again because I think back to like, you know, Kirk and the crew. You're out on the planet, and I knew it was somewhere in California, you know, and so here I was. I'm out there. I'm like, this is cool. Okay, but I can't wait to get back to the studio.
I remember, well, first of all, I thought it was a good writer's touch for them to have your character pick up the water rations from Sisko's bag when he drops it, and you kind of pick it up, just thinking ahead, like, hey, we might need this later on. I thought that was just good writing, and it was smart. But then there was the moment where Jake is giving Joseph Sisko, his grandpa, is one of those water rations. And that triggered a memory for me of the day. Like I remembered that moment all of a sudden, because I remember the first time I opened that little thing, I tore it all the way up. And when you tear it all the way up and somebody tries to drink out of it, it comes splashing out on your face.
Way to go.
So I got Brock did not like it like that. So I remember if you rewatch the episode when I tear it, I do a little,
just a tiny little piece. I did notice that actually. And you did it really fast. Like you had a lot of practice. I was like, was that pre-torn or did he, because you just did a little right off and it's perfect.
Now I remember that adjusting for baby tear because Brock had to drink. And if you look, I kind of look over to see if he's not going to spill a whole bunch of water out on his shirt because that defeats the whole purpose.
And now I remember, like, you know, I'm in this part of the scene. I would check back at you guys coming up over just like you were miserable.
Super miserable out there. And, you know, Brock did not like that. You know, Brock wasn't happy. He wasn't. He was like, what the hell do they need me here for? I could be in my restaurant.
Yeah.
But I did like, Nicole, the scene that we had, I thought was really special. It was just a small little moment in the hallway, kind of the doorway scene.
Yeah.
And
I love that scene.
Yeah, it was really good. You were like, yeah, I'm a ship counselor. And I was like, counselor? Like, you're so emotional and you're so all over the place. Like, you're counseling people? I thought that was a nice little moment between us, you know. Therapist, you're like, yeah, you know, a little surprising. That was what you said. And that was the Rock DiGino scene. That's when you were like, I hate this Rock DiGino.
I remember. I remember, and you were so taller than me, and you're like, see you young guy, and you're all like cool, and you're like, you know, see you in your car pulling up outside and stuff on the lawn. But you were so great. I mean, you had this part, your character had grown so much. It was just really fun to play. And we would joke around. And, you know, it just felt great. I love that scene between us. And I can still remember standing in there, you know, doing that with you. And it was just a really cute moment with us.
Do you guys actually remember your first impressions? I guess this would be for the first episode. Because, I mean, Nikki, you basically saw Cirroc as a 13-year-old when you watched the first episode. And then more recently later on, you're like, okay, I think I got an idea. And then you see this tall guy driving his car, like you mentioned. Do you guys remember like your first impressions? Were there nerves or were you just seemed everything was friendly and fun?
It just felt good to me. I remember it was more later when Aaron would come into the mix that there would be more, you know, animosity, but it just felt very nice with Cirroc because we were the younger ones. But that again, Aaron, I hadn't met Aaron at that point, so it, you know, we felt it was still an age difference, but you know what I mean, like the younger ones.
I just thought you were super sweet and you know, just like really eager and professional and aware, and you were, you know, always listening and just soaking up everything. But I just thought how sweet you were, how kind you were, and how well spoken. And I was like, because some people, actors, you know, all kinds of actors, have certain kind of chips on their shoulders or arrogance or different qualities that.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not going to start with the names. But certain actors can have a chip on their shoulder. They can walk in thinking that they're better than people, or they could melt under the moment too and just feel inadequate and like this is too much for me and it's overwhelming. I thought you did an excellent job of just, you know, you're coming into a show that's already established already, almost, on its last season already. And you fit in as fast as you could possibly fit into a cast, in my opinion. So
thanks. That's what it felt like. It really felt like that. It really
That's how I felt. Like you were instantly just like boom in, and because of your personality, because you're so gracious, because you're so warm, because you're so pleasant, because you're so bright and articulate, and just able to get all the beats that they wanted to get done too, and translate all of this in such subtle ways.
And I knew too, I'd never been on a show for 6-7 years. I'd been on a show for a whole year. So I know what it feels like to be a series regular, and you're enjoying it, but you've been doing it a long time or whatever. So it's nice to have that injection of someone who's like so grateful to have just gotten this part, and there's that energy that you bring to it too. And then it, I know how that can revive you again too. It's like, oh yeah, right. Yeah. It's just, it's just fun. It's just a fun energy to bring into it, because I've been on the other side of it too, but everything just felt like it fit so well. Like it just really did. Felt like I was meant to be there. And I just felt like I knew you guys already, it just really felt right.
Seems like it also brings a breath of fresh air, for the writers, because now they've got a fun new character with which to work, like it kind of breathes new life into their creative process. I mean, they're obviously, they're losing a piece that they love, but getting something new creates new storylines and new situations and something new to play with, something new to think about. And I'm sure what you guys feel as actors, the writers also feel that kind of a breath of fresh creativity.
Now, at the same time, I didn't fully understand everything that was going on. I was just kind of faking it. That's a lot of storyline, and you're the emissary, and there's Bajor, and I was like, I don't really totally get it. I'm just gonna act like I do.
Yeah, that was one thing that, when we interviewed with Terry, she said that she was intimidated by Avery because he has so much skill as an actor. And she basically said in the beginning to go easy on her for all intents and purpose, and felt like he did. He made it easier for her and didn't really. Did you feel like Avery did that for you as well? Like not like really try to, did he make it easy for you? Not that you weren't capable, but did he make it easy for you and not difficult for you when you first got there? Was it easy for you, welcoming and like?
Yeah, 100%. Like I say, from walking into that scene with you three gentlemen, and him giving me that validation. And that's where when you saw me interact with him that day, that was the first time that I interacted, and just everything always felt that same way with him. I loved my scenes with Avery Brooks. I love them. They felt so natural, so good, so fun. He's very playful and very fun. And I just, he really can be. And I was just like very cheeky, and I felt very confident in being Esri. I was like, I don't see anyone around here who could be Esri. I'm Esri. So I felt confident in that, and the writing was great. And of course, he's such a great actor. So I loved all my scenes with him. That one where I'm upside down later. And like, I just remember really enjoying that scene. Even when he's like giving me a little bit of hell, he's yelling at me a bit. I loved all of it, because then he gives me that smirk, just so great. Yeah.
I was going to ask you if you had any specifics of things that he did that were fun or wry or playful, because we see it all the time in scenes with Cirroc, with Avery and Cirroc, where he adds like the towel whip, or or he gives him a punch, or he goes like, okay, and like makes fun of him a little bit. Like so many things. In one episode, he actually says hammock time. Like they're setting up a hammock, and that wasn't written in. That he goes in the 90s, Avery Brooks decides to go hammock time when they're putting up a hammock. So there are all these playful little things. It seems like he kind of embraced you as well as somebody with which he felt comfortable being playful. Did you have any specifics? You kind of gave us one about the smirk that you said earlier, but
yeah, I mean, it wasn't so much between the scenes, it was, I think he just thought I was a crazy little elf from Canada. Like I was just sort of slightly like do. And someone heard me say, I'm doing my scene with Avery. And they went, did you just call him Avery?
Oops.
Oh my God. I'm like, why? And they're like, it's Mr. Brooks. I mean, whoa, did you call him Avery to his face? And I was like, yeah, that's his name. I didn't know. So. And they're like, oh, it's Mr. Brooks. And I was like, oh, well, I didn't know that. Sorry. Then I came back out to set and we were doing that scene where I'm upside down and stuff. And then I was like, oh, Mr. Brooks. And I grabbed his hands and I bent down in front of him and I kissed his knuckles or something. I was like, I'm sorry, Mr. Brooks, Mr. Brooks. And he was like, look at me. He was like, what is wrong with this child? Right. And he was just laughing at me. And yeah, I just came in with that sort of energy with him because I feel like it was obvious as well how much I respected him as an actor. I mean, it just was unspoken, So I don't know. It's just one of those things. Some people you get along with, some people you don't. We just worked well as actors together and stuff. But we weren't like goofing around a lot between the scenes or anything. But as soon as it was action, it was just on and it felt like playing, It was great.
Yeah, and Avery plays a lot with his pauses, his looks, his eye looks. He'll give you a pause.
Yeah.
He'll kind of bend, he'll stretch a moment out where you're like, like all this stuff starts to bubble in the air just off of the
that line where he says, am I intimidating you or whatever? It's like, and I'm like, so funny. I think it's so good.
You mentioned Aaron, and he's not in this episode, but he is our one of our guiding lights in this show, and really the reason we do it. But Aaron Eisenberg, how did you develop that kind of bond that you had with him so fast, so deep? Your guys' chemistry is amazing. I've watched you interact before, and I just feel like you guys have known each other going back even before we met on this show. But
it just felt like it. I just remember when he came to set one day, and he just had that amazing energy. He was so happy. He was so freaking happy to be there all the time, and so grateful to be there and so happy and such a hard worker and such a great actor. But he would come around and he wanted to check me out, the new chick on the show. Who's this new girl, And so he was coming around and being playful with me, And he started that whole thing of like, hey, Nicole, and then giving me the bird or whatever.
Oh, boy, that game.
Yeah.
That game. And I was kind of like, okay.
The middle finger game. And then.
Yeah, I was like, all right.
We both
but so he could be a little annoying at times. He could be kind of annoying, but in a very lovable way, and he just wore me down.
Yes, Cirroc, it seems like when you were asking what Aaron, how they became friends so quickly and easily, knowing Aaron, it just kind of feels like Aaron wouldn't have it any other way. He was going to force, okay, new person. All right, we're going to be great friends. We're going to get along and I'm going to figure you out. It just seems like.
Or he's going to make the whole thing out of you not being his friend. So
don't do that.
She hates me. I know she hates me. Oh yeah, there she goes. There's that look in her eye. I know, Nicole. Exactly. That's all right.
So it's either one. So it's easier to go with the friendship route because otherwise you can make your life more miserable.
No, he forced that on me 100%. And then certainly over the years, the more I got to know him better over the years, going to conventions and stuff is when I really, and having opportunities to go out for dinner with him and stuff. And then that's when, it became, but back then he mostly annoyed me in a good way, in a cute way.
That's Aaron. That's it. He annoys you until you like it. Until you like
That's right.
it.
But then, I mean, when we did It's Only a Paper Moon, I mean, that was just so wonderful to work with. He was just so great in that episode. And yeah.
It's coming up. Yeah. You know what other one's coming up in just a couple of weeks too is actually Take Me Out to the Holosuite. I didn't realize it was so early in the 7th season, but when I peeked ahead, but we don't want to talk about that just yet. You were going to say something, Cirroc?
No, I was going to say, because Nicole mentioned earlier that, she was worried that people are going to hate her or whatnot. And I mean, have people given you any kind of sentiment negatively like that? Like, oh, whatever.
Online.
I know 1 or 2 people have done it, but it's not like a major.
No, not really. No. To the opposite, like I've said, I went into my trailer and I hadn't even shot anything, and there were like 2 huge garbage bags of. I was like, "What is that?" And the AD said, "Oh, that's your mail, your fan mail." I was like,
"Wow,
fan mail." I'm just barely. Wow. Starting. They haven't seen anything. So it was all this fan mail welcoming me to the Star Trek universe, welcoming the show. So I was like, wow, blown away by that. So mostly the opposite for sure. There's always people online, but we know we can't.
I mean, there's always
someone.
Online, but,
But that was the beginning of that stuff, I mean, I remember at my apartment, I finally got in Los Feliz, and I got one of those iMacs that, the big ones, that's the green, it was like green space egg looking thing. And that was my computer. I was so excited about my computer. And at the same time, you could message boards were starting. And that's when that stuff was just really beginning, for better or worse.
Social media and all those computers and websites and all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, we only have a couple minutes left before we have to run. But Nikki, do you have any final thoughts on this particular episode? Or what about when you first, at the end of the episode, when you first walked on to the set of Deep Space Nine itself, were you blown away by how big and intricate it was? Or were you just focused on just get through this scene and you're meeting everybody new, don't screw anything up? What was the feeling like?
Yeah. Number 1, so happy to not be in the desert. So happy to be back at the studio. Number 2, you know what I did not expect? The sets. I'd never seen anything like that before. I mean, just incredible. And my trailer was right outside of stage 4. But what I wasn't expecting were all the amazing background actors, like just incredible. And like everybody's in their costumes and everybody's there and everybody's doing their part. And they really make it come to life when you're, on that promenade and stuff. That I wasn't expecting. That was a really cool surprise to see, because that really adds to it.
It's live. It's like all of a sudden everybody's crossing and people are going places,
and they're amazing, really amazing. And so that was an amazing moment to walk in and shoot that scene at the end. I just loved it, and it's all come to life in front of me, and so fun to say those lines to Worf, and then I just love that moment at the very end.
I can't actually wait to see what's going to happen next. My mind is spinning, and I don't want any spoilers, Nicole, because I haven't seen this show yet.
Okay.
And I'm
excited
about these episodes. So I'm excited to see how the Worf thing's going to play out. I don't know how it's going to play out yet. And I'm like,
I'm glad you're excited. That's great.
Yeah, I'm like, how's it gonna go with Esme and Worf? Like, is she gonna turn them down, or are they gonna pick back up? I was wondering about that. I have to see.
Not very nice.
Nikki, when was the last time you told somebody, no spoilers, you'll just have to see about a show that was 24 years ago?
That's okay.
I love it. It's so cool.
I can't wait. So
the show's coming off of Netflix now too, right?
Yep, it is off.
Just read that.
It will be off July 1st, I believe. Yeah, that's sad.
Okay.
The end of an era, but we have Netflix to thank for the huge resurgence in Star Trek, because suddenly everybody was like, I can watch Star Trek anytime I want, as much as I want. And Star Trek fans did
Really made a difference.
They watched a lot. All right. Well, Cirroc, it's time for us to give our thanks to our good friends, and they are Homer Frizzell out in Walter Koenig's former apartment building in New York City, Dr. Marie Segal in Manhattan, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon-Tom, Carmen, aka Skillet, Tim Baum, aka Grandpa One, but he's also aka Bubbles One apparently now. TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arucan, Titus Mohler, Darlena Marie, John Mann, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Tierney C. Dieckmann, Anna Post, Rex A. Wood, Anil O. Polat, Erika Stroem, Joe Balsarotti, Mike Gu, Stephanie Baker, Dequeue, Neal Akasaka, Justine Norton-Kertson, and of course, Dr. Susan V. Gruner. There they are, the Fast and the Furious, the greatest people in the world.
Most of those names, I think, recognize.
I had a feeling you might. I was watching you when I was reading them, but I should have been watching reading the names. But you were like, "Yep, know him, know her,
recognize that,
got it."
Recognize that name.
Right. Oh, also one final shout out before we go. We have relaunched our audio podcast. Everybody on iTunes, Spotify, Podcast Addict, everywhere you go, everywhere you look, there we are. We've already put up all of season 1. Oh. We're putting up season 2. And so it's all relaunched. So we're going to be reading some reviews. And Dave A. Gregg on iTunes says, the best Star Trek podcast. I've been a loyal T7R listener for quite a while, but after Aaron's passing, jumped into the live chats and never looked back. It's been an emotional necessity just before and during the pandemic. Aaron, Cirroc, and Ryan have been shining examples of how to bring Trek community together with love and appreciation for what it is. It's more than looking at Deep Space Nine on the surface. It's the shared experiences, emotions, friendship, production background, and insights gleaned from each episode and what the characters and overall message means to fans. I can't recommend The Seventh Rule enough. And Nicole de Boer is awesome. I added that last part, but that was a great... That was
lovely.
Thanks, Dave A. Gregg.
Yeah, my mom writes very well. I didn't know she was that good.
All right. That's about
you guys are well loved. It's a great show, and thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you, Nicole. This is so awesome. I like Ryan was saying right from the beginning, you lit up the screen, and we were excited to have you on and talk about this, your beginning journey in this show. And there will be more. We hope to have you back. And
happy to be here for sure. For sure.
Once we find out what's about to happen.
We do really, really hope to have you back, Nikki. And we really appreciate you taking the time in your busy schedule on a completely different coast. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right. Everybody at home, stick around for the free-for-all. And until then, always remember the seventh rule. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the seventh rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hey. Hello.
As you know, we are doing a review of Deep Space Nine, Season 7, Episode 2, Shadows and Symbols. We are joined by people there's so many Sisko kids going on here today. We have Goldie Scott here wearing a Sisko kid shirt from Abyssinian Kiosk. We also have Dr. Mohamed Noor wearing a Sisko kid shirt from Abyssinian Kiosk. We also have Eve England here wearing a Sisko kid shirt from Abyssinian Kiosk. Anil O. Polat is here wearing a shirt from Abyssinian Kiosk. I don't think it's a Sisko kid flavor, though.
No, that's an original, nice, beautiful design.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. We also have Homer Frizzell wearing Ferengi eyes. You can get yours at teespring.com/seventh rule. We got Grandpa One wearing his James Bond shirt.
Bubbles.
And Melissa Longo is here wearing a cool shirt as well. Oh, there it is. It's a Melissa Longo creation. Mm-hmm. Walking art made by Melissa.com. Wow. We're severely underdressed, Cirroc. All right.
I see. Scott's got a color that I haven't seen either. Was that like a tan color or
It's kind of like an army green with the white.
Army green with the white.
Yeah, I love this. Is my favorite green, probably of all time.
I like that.
All right. Well, let's have some fun, shall we? Dr. Mohamed Noor, have you seen this episode recently? And if so, what did you think?
I did. I really enjoyed it. I watched it maybe about 4 or 5 days ago, just in preparation for this discussion. It was really good. I made one mistake. I didn't rewatch the one before it, and I just jumped right into that one. So I was a little off kilter then going in there, but I had a few quick looks at Memory Alpha to remind myself, like, oh yeah, that's right. Okay, I see what's happening. But yeah, I thought it was very well done. I mean, it was a great introduction to Esri. And it was interesting how the word destiny kept on coming up. Like, you're fulfilling your destiny, Benjamin, and like Esri is from the USS Destiny. So it seems like a good theme for what's going on for the rest of the season. But I really enjoyed it a great deal.
I didn't even catch the USS Destiny. Good catch.
I didn't catch that. Yeah.
Oh, did you guys get the I think there was one NAM this episode. Did you guys catch it? One non-appearance mention.
Jadzia.
Yeah. Tried to make it seem like it was sneaky, but it's not. It was all over the episode. Well, let's see.
Well, there would have been other NAMs as well, because I think we saw some of the previous hosts by now.
Yeah, that's true. They named all of the previous hosts, but I was like, I'm not writing all that down.
Oh, okay. All right.
but yes, you're right. I think they named them all. Yeah. What do you think of the episode, Homer?
I liked it a lot. I was getting warm and parched when they were walking through the desert, and I was like, oh, man, I'm like, is
Must
that
have been
the right
hard on you.
outfit to be wearing? Yeah. I have a nitpick for later.
Ooh.
But I enjoyed this episode a lot. It zipped along. It was fun. Yeah.
You're also wearing possibly the coolest hat of all time.
Yeah. Have I shown you the back of this hat before?
No.
I haven't seen
Well, it'll come through as backwards, but I'll do it anyway because I think you'll be able to figure it out.
Nog. It says, everybody just listening in, it just says Nog on the back. That's brilliant.
That's nice.
Take me out to the holosuite. Yes.
Exactly.
So good.
Yeah.
Team
So good.
I love
capture.
this hat.
All right. Well, Eve England out in Wales, who's already dreading the World Cup because she's worried that England and USA will go on in her group and leave Wales behind. What did you think of this episode?
Yeah, it's I think, as everyone said, it's very, there's a lot going on, and I was kind of trying to think of what I wanted to sort of highlight, but I found some interesting facts in the companion because it's just full of those. And what I just thought I'd share with everyone is it was all about the hospital wall. So when Benny Russell is in the hospital scenes. So apparently the script just called for walls covered with intricate writing. So apparently that's all they had to go with. And they obviously knew that they couldn't have the camera focus too much on the screen because they knew people would try to see if they've actually written the whole of the Deep Space Nine story on the wall for the episode, which see they didn't. But they were trying to work out how to do it. And Michael Okuda said so instead of just using some sort of computer rendition of some text, they actually did get the whole art department to physically write with pencil on the wall. And they were thinking, well, we've got to write something. They knew they had to have words like Odo and space, DS9 and things like that to sort of pop out of it. But what they decided to do, they had a really early draft of the companion. So they just picked out different episode synopsis from the companion to get everyone to write on the wall. And it doesn't say, they can't remember which precise episodes they used, but they definitely used the Tribbles episodes. So that was one that they definitely used. So I just thought that was really cool that they actually took the time to activate. They had to get the whole team because they said it was just taking ages. And they tried to use Avery's handwriting to copy this sort of style, but they said it didn't. They didn't have time to do that, but they said it worked pretty well, that it wasn't too far off his writing. But I just thought that was really cool, thinking of all those poor guys having to write on that wall.
What a nightmare.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Cause I thought about that too. When I saw that, I was like, oh my God, somebody has to write all of that. And writing on a wall is harder. Writing, on like a vertical space is a lot harder than writing down. Like it's actually not easy. However, somebody is easy like Sunday morning, and it's Anil O. Polat. How are you today, Anil?
Good. Yeah, I really like this episode because they were able to work in the whole cast, which is, not easy. There's so many characters, but and I love the scenes at the psych ward. It's because you don't, like, when I first watched it, I was like, is this real? Wait, is the show not real anymore? Is Benny Russell, like, is that the real? Like, it's so confusing, which is how Sisko feels. And I love the way they did it because it puts you in that, like, I don't know what's real anymore. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, when they cut to the Benny Russell thing, personally, I'd forgotten about that until it happened. I was like, oh, where did that come from? Cirroc, we didn't talk too much about that. What did you think when the Benny Russell thing popped up? Was it confusing, or were you just like, okay, all right, let's see where this goes?
I thought it was a great callback, actually, because of how much I like Far Beyond the Stars.
Mm-hmm.
And just that little bit of a callback I thought was fantastic. It was good to see Casey Biggs playing the psych ward doctor. And I don't think he played that in the original Far Beyond the Stars. I thought he played a different character.
I don't think he was in it at all.
He's not in it at all, is he?
He's either not in it or he's in the office. But yeah, he definitely wasn't the psych ward guy.
Yeah. I thought it was a great callback. It made me think a little bit of what Anil just said about what's real, and it actually reminded me of Ira saying that the whole DS9 was basically coming out of Benny Russell's head, and he wanted to end the show kind of on that type of note. And the argument he had with Rick Berman about that idea not flying with Rick. So I thought of all of this. So I think this is Ira's way of shoving that in there a little bit and inserting a little bit of that. Just to make you think, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? Is Benny Russell really dreaming all this stuff up? And then the other thing I thought about was the point that Eve, when you just made about the writing on the wall. There was a moment when I was watching it, I was thinking, should I pause this and try to read what's on the wall? And then I thought, that's going too far. I don't want to go that far. But the thought came across my mind, though. So it's interesting that just in case I wanted to, they had already prepared that for just for that, inevitability, perhaps. So I thought that was great.
Yeah, you could tell that there were actual real sentences in there. You could see names, you could see things that you recognize, like what Eve was saying. Goldu Scott Jensen, also wearing a cool hat. What do you think of this episode? You were saying this is one of your least favorites, right?
Oh, was that what I was saying? I don't remember saying that. I say a lot of things, so it could have slipped in there at some point. I had two spots that I hadn't recognized earlier that I feel like I should definitely call out, and that was Kira punking out like an entire fleet, and more importantly, scaring Ross. That was probably the most important thing. If you see Admiral Ross, this man has been through so much. You know what? I'm going to bat for her because I'm scared right now. I loved that part. And I also kind of like what Cirroc was and Anil were just talking about is that I love that they brought up the Benny Russell thing again, and also that it was tied up, because there's been some other shows where they've done that. Is it all a dream or is it all not? And then they never talk about it again. So then you got all those fan people later on saying it was all definitely a dream. It was in a snow globe. It was Buffy's crazy and she dreamed the whole thing up, that whole thing. So happy that had a nice little bow tied up on it. And also, man, this is a great introduction to Ezri. Yeah, like the entire how I didn't catch it, in all the other times, but when they were like, oh no, we're going to Tyree, and Jake's like, oh no, you don't understand, and she just goes, all right, cool, I'll go too. Like, didn't even think about it, just didn't even take the time to slow down, just jumped right into it. And yeah, it was a testament to her character being incredibly insecure and also willing to just dive in at the same time, which that's a balance that happens with a lot of people that feel that. So
now, Scott, Homer put in the chat, no Buffy spoilers, please.
Mhm.
So
okay, I definitely won't text them all to you then, Homer.
Thanks,
Why don't we start a
GDS.
podcast about Buffy, man? We should do that.
yeah.
Yeah, it could be my first
I've seen it.
watch.
There you go.
Yeah, I've never seen it. James loves it,
Yeah.
but I've never seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
have your
just made
people
all
get
that
in touch
stuff
with me.
Buffy.
Yeah, I'll have them talk to you. Send an email.
How about Bubbles, the vampire slayer?
I love it.
Tim, have you seen this episode recently? Did you love it?
Yes, I saw it a couple hours ago again, and I did love it. One of the things that stood out, and I remember first time I ever saw this episode, there was a movie in 1982, Joe Clayburgh was in it, I'm Dancing as Fast as I Can. And it was based on a true story of a screenwriter that was coming off Valium addiction. But she did that whole solve the world's problems by writing all over the wall when she was going through withdrawal. And for some reason, that just reminded me of that whole movie from back then. I did like the secondary storyline with Kira. It's like, oh, we're going to get our ass kicked, but I'm still going to bluff till the end.
Yeah.
He was almost like, today's a good day to die. So,
Well,
and Odo was going, well, I thought it'd last longer than this, but what the hell,
Odo didn't seem too excited about the about her bravery, right? At first he was gung ho,
Well,
but then he
At first he was.
Yeah. Well, he's kind of like, I guess if you're going to go down, we're going to go down together. So might as well go with you. So, I thought it was a great introduction to Ezri, and also it really defined the whole emissary. It's like he comes to the realization, I was picked to be emissary before I was ever born. So regardless, my whole life was leading up to ending up at Deep Space Nine in the wormhole. And then when he came up with that realization, and I did like the little scene where he was like, you used my mother's body and then you abandoned her. And she realized, I don't love this guy, so I'm leaving. So yeah, that was kind of a dig. It's like, what you did to my dad doing that. But I think it's a great introduction to the final season and how the whole emissary and religious aspect plays out. So
it's a little dark. Yeah, that little aspect there was pretty dark, where you're like, wow, that's hardcore.
That is hard.
Yeah, it was. And very good episode.
Mm-hmm. Melissa Longo, did you think this was a great episode?
It was all right.
Boo.
Dad's kidding. Just kidding. No, it was a great episode. I really liked a lot of different elements from it. All three storylines that were going on at the same time I was invested in. I loved Quark's responses to everything, especially when he says, take me out of the oven, Mookie, I'm cooked. So funny. And then, but my favorite line was when Kira tells the senator that she's not dead yet. So I was like, yes, that's my girl. And I like how the orb of the emissary was kind of like Excalibur, and it was meant only for Benjamin. That was pretty awesome. And I thought it was pretty brave of Jake to get so close to somebody who had just exploded all over the console. And then because she gets space sick and she's not off the ship yet, so there's a chance for her to explode again. Disgusting. Very brave of you.
You imagine the smell.
Gross. But
Siskos are made of sterner stuff
than me. Yeah, that's for sure. But it was a great episode, and I was sad to read that this was Brock Peters' last episode in the series.
Yeah.
Which makes me sad.
That's because they asked him to walk some more sand dunes, and he said, "You know what?
He's like, done.
I'm done. I'm done walking in the desert. I'm too old for this."
Yeah. That's like Lethal Weapon, right? Isn't that I'm too old for this shit? Yeah.
I don't know if you were, I mean, did you guys have that thought too when you saw him climbing up? I was like, why did they bring Joseph along? This is not like it's not like a casual hike. He's way too old to be doing this. I thought it was almost like elder abuse.
I did read that Ira wanted him there to keep the family together. I did read that online that they were like,
in August.
Like, are you crazy? Yeah.
It does say that in the companion, but it does say that we're worried
just
about
say,
him.
I'll wait for you over here by this tree with this water or something. Just like, I'll meet you over there.
Yeah.
Well,
when you find it all being down there.
It says more towards Joseph Sisko's character, because he would have gone along with Ben on this quest with him. I don't think he would have stayed behind.
Mm-hmm. But they should have given him sunglasses and a mask.
A hoverboard.
And then that way you could just
Michael
use
J. Fox had a hoverboard.
Body
I'm
double.
just saying.
Little lemonade with an umbrella on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Malibu and rum.
Melissa mentioned one NAM that we missed, which is Moogie.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Moogie.
I did miss that.
Actually, I guess in that regard, you could also say that when he said Worf, son of Keldar. Didn't say Keldar.
Poor Keldar.
Actually, at that point, you could add in Mike Hammer and the Costumogen too.
No.
Get him, Homer.
I've seen Costumogen.
No.
Actually, Homer, before we go, you've got a nitpick for us too, right?
Uh-oh.
I do.
Nice.
And it's an observation if I had a certain task to perform. But I would think in that day and age, they would have had better shovels. And if you knew you had to dig, why would you get like a military issue one? I understand Starfleet maybe was, but there's no money. So he could have gotten a good one, or maybe one that was like telescoping, or something like a phaser. So you don't even have to be digging around. The related one is that if I'm digging a hole, the Sisko is not at the top of my list because he's just flailing sand all over the place.
Yeah, those are solid nitpicks.
It was extreme.
Yeah.
He was more stirring the sand.
Like,
just beam the sand out. Just get it out of here.
You see, the shovel has reached the maximum level of advancement in its development and evolution.
Yeah.
It's like the spoon in Star Trek as well.
Yeah.
I guess if it ain't broke.
It's like the wheel. It's perfectly done like it is.
Yep. Well, speaking of perfectly done, I think that's about it for us, everybody. We're like the wheel. We're 360 degrees of perfection. Why is that funny?
That's good. I may use that.
Yeah.
All right. We want to give a very special thanks to Homer, Mohamed, Eve, Anil, Goldu Scott, Grandpa One, and Melissa for Cirroc, Lofton, and myself and Mr. Aaron Eisenberg. We want to thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next time. Until then, however, always remember the seventh rule.